Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with JS Hobbies and Crafts. And what I've done here is I created a tutorial organizer. Now I am constantly doing video tutorials, and one of the things that I now give everybody is the pre-cutting and measurement scoring guide. So there are a lot of different components and pieces to making a mini album or some other craft project. So the problem I was faced with is organization. I would pre-cut just like you all my stuff, the stuff for the base of the album to make, page 1, 2, 3, and I would have this pile on my desk. And I just started doing my pre-cuts for a new mini album, Wild Asters by Heartfelt Creations, and I had just, this started piling up for page 1, 2, and I thought I gotta be able to organize. So what I decided to do is make a box, and it is 9 inches wide, and it's 7 inches this way. So in each one of these folders is for like each component. So for the base album, all I have to do is, after I pre-cut, is put it in my folder for base album. And when I go to start filming this, I just pull everything out and I'm ready to go. Now granted, when we wrap albums, our sheets are quite larger. So those 2 sheets of cardstock or 3 sheets of cardstock that we cut for wrapping the outside of the album, of course they're going to be wider than 9 inches if it's a larger album. Those pieces, they're usually the first ones we grab at anyway, so it not going in here is perfectly fine. So for example, I don't have all my pages, so I'm quite flat against here, but the base album and like the outside of the album, this one will have some extra components of chipboard and everything, because we're going to be doing a different design that I'm really excited about showing you. And then for page 1, when I'm ready to start filming for the page 1, all my pre-cuts for that are in here, and I can just take it out and it's all organized. Same thing all the way back. So that is what I was going to show you how to make, and I hope that this might help you not only with taking my tutorials, but perhaps taking other people's tutorials that give pre-cutting, and you can place them into place. Now I only went up to page 10. If you need to make more, do so. Now you may want to make an extra one, I'm not sure, but for the pre-cutting and measurement scoring guide. However, I would stick that in the back because it's going to be the tallest piece that goes back in there. However, once you've done your cuts, you can always just leave this off to the side. So that is what I'm going to be teaching, how to make this. It's just something that I thought of. I got going on that tutorial, pre-cutting everything, and I just, I wanted to find an easier way. Now, another thing that you can do is make files. Perhaps you're organizing, getting ready for the tutorial, is make some of these extra folders and place like your flower packets or your flower die cuts. Another good one is to make a file for trim punching or trim die cutting. At least in my tutorials, we add the trim after, so that the people that don't want the trim, we make the album and then we have the option of adding our trim. So placing a bunch of trim back in the very back paper that you can die cut or get your trim ready to go. Okay, let's begin with the materials list. So let's go over the materials list that we're going to need to make our tutorial organizer box. You'll want to download the free copy of the materials list and the pre-cutting measurement scoring guide, and you'll also notice there is a second page. Now you can print this out on 65-pound paper or like an adhesive paper like I did. I don't sell the adhesive paper, but that is an option to get these tabs on our tabs. But we will be cutting these down and making them so they fit. So I decided for my box, I wanted to use the Brocata Estents by the Ciao Bella. And I'll probably be needing about 5 sheets or so out of this. So if you have some leftovers from this paper pack or any other one that you want, grab it. And we will need at least 25 sheets of cardstock. I decided to use the 12 by 12. It's like an 80-pound by American Crafts. There's 25 sheets in here, and we will be using all of it. You can use 85 or 8.5 by 11 sheets if you'd like instead. You'll still be using the same amount. Now, for leftover cuts, anything that we have left over on the side, what you can use those for is put them by your die cutting machine. In my tutorials, I usually have you add your fancy trim or die cuts or punch trim after the fact. So what I have is over time, strips of my cardstock, so it's ready to die cut. So that will go in that pile. So there is no real waste if you're a die cutter. Okay, to make the tabs, like for instance right here, I am using the We Are Memory Keepers. It's the tab punch board. And this is really cool because you can make your own folders over and over again. Instead of buying file folders, which can be costly over time, you can just start making your own. So this is really cool, and you can also use these in your albums by making the tab and then doing your spacing and whatnot, or your little traveler notebooks and so forth. So this has a lot of uses for me. Now this is completely optional. On the front of the box, you'll notice that I have this. Okay. Now what you can do is on your computer is just on your 65-pound paper or your adhesive paper, you can type this out and then print it out. What I use to get this really nice fancy is I use like a gold paper and then a white paper to get my printout. But for the die cutting, if you are die cutters, I use the Album Tag and Accents die. And inside there is this really cool plate. And that's where you see this. And then the inside is done with the slightly smaller one, which cuts out the white. So that's optional for you. I actually really like this pack because I have a variety of stuff in here. Okay, you're going to want some 3/8" score tape, and of course you're going to want your glue for this. You'll just need 1 sheet of black cardstock, and I'm just going to use a 12 by 12 sheet, but this is just for our hinges. If all you have is an 8.5 by 11, that should be fine for that, but just be careful on your cuts. I'm going to need some chipboard, and I have 3 pieces of the medium weight 12 by 12 that I can cut down. Here's a tip. When we're making mini albums, we always seem to have leftovers. So check your scrap chipboard to see if you can use some of that for this. And that's what I had done when I made my original one. You'll want some scissors, a ruler, your scoring board, your paper cutter. You'll want your pencil, eraser, and a craft knife will definitely make things easier in your tool. So that's all we're really going to need. Let's review our pre-cuts for our chipboard, because that's what we're going to start with. You should have one 7 by 9, and it's our bottom piece, and we can just stick that off to the side for right now. We'll work with these other ones. You should have 2 5 by 7s, and we called them the short side. And you should have 2 5" by 9", and we called those the long side. So from right now, what we're going to do is grab one of our long sides and one of our short sides, and we're just going to butt those right on up evenly together. What you should have are 4 pieces that are 1.5 by 5 inches. One of them we stuck on our scoring board so that we were 1.5 inches across, and we ended up scoring at 3/4, so right in half. And that's the last one that we will be putting on. So for now, that scored one will just stick off to the side. Now you should have 3 more, and I accidentally scored one. It isn't going to matter much, but we're going to have 3 of them that we're going to be working with. So I'll just stick these right on over here. Grab your 3/8 inch score tape, and all we're going to do on each of these is we're just going to put score tape. We'll do one on each side by the edge. And then we'll just go one down the middle. So we'll do that on these two. If you have any score tape hanging over the edge, you'll clip it off. And we're going to burnish this down really good on each one of our pieces. All right, let's start with this one. This is where your craft knife comes in handy. We'll just remove that backing off there. Okay, we have these pushed up even. And all we're going to do is lay this right on over that area there, making sure they're flush together, and then we'll burnish. Don't worry if you get it a little overhang, we can always trim that later. Okay, let's move this down. We want the 5x9 long side, and we're going to push that up against our short side on over here, line up our tops. We'll remove the score tape, and we'll do the same thing and burnish. We're just going to move this right on down here. We're going to now grab our last piece, which is the short side as far as the sides go. We'll butt that up. We'll remove the score tape backing, and we will place that right on over that. Now, the score tape, the reason why I like to use it is because it doesn't bubble up like sometimes the glue if you don't get it evenly. So right now, you should be able to bend your piece into a square. Okay, now to trim off any overhang, if you have it, you'll just flip it over, get your little cutting mat and your craft knife, and you will trim it so no overhang. You should have one more hinge, and it is scored. And we're going to fold on that score line. Okay, with the peak up, let's grab our score tape. And we're going to lay a piece at the edge on each side, like we have been. And then we can, if you have a 1/4 inch, you can lay your 1/4 inch in there, or you can just lay it right next to that hinge area. If you're using the 3/8 all the way through, like I am. And you can overlap it onto your other one. You're just going to make sure that you clip off any overhang there. Like that. All right, let's remove one side of our score tape backing. We'll leave the other one alone for right now. Okay, whoops. We're going to just fold that so the sticky side's down and the peak is going this way. And all we're going to do is take where our peak is and line it up right next to the edge of our chipboard as best we can. We'll open that up if you need to do any trimming or whatever. If you have overhang, that's something you'll need to do. Now, we're going to place this piece here, and this bottom will go right underneath your 5x9. So we're just going to stick that there for now. And here is your 5x9. You'll have one scored and one not scored. Right now, we want the one that is not scored. And we're just going to lay our score tape like we did before. 3 pieces. One on each side and one down the middle. Now, sometimes it's deceiving. Before we place this down there, it's deceiving. So pull up your side really quick and make sure that your chipboard is sitting right where it should be by the hinges there. So once you have it where you know it's supposed to be, okay, you have your lines here that will help you as well. But just make sure it's all put where it's supposed to be. Then we can remove the score tape, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to lay that right across there, and we'll burnish it down. Let's push this down. Now we have the 1.5 by 9 inch, the one that's scored. And we will fold on that score line. And with the peak up, we're going to do the same thing we did before. We'll lay one on each side, and then we'll on the other side. And we'll overlap if necessary on each side of that. So what we're going to do is remove one side like we did before. We'll pull this back, and the peak is facing you right now. And we're going to line it up with the edge of our chipboard. You should have 2 pieces that are 1.5 inch by 7 inch, and we've scored on both of those. And we're going to fold on each of those. Doesn't look like I wrote on the second one. With the peak up, we're going to do the same thing with our score tape. Before we attach these pieces, what I'd like you to do is fold your bottom up. And then you can see where your crease is there. So this is going to be no different than putting these on that we put the other ones that are scored. So we'll remove one side. The peak on this is going to go that way, and we're going to line it up with the edge of our chipboard. And we'll do the same with this one, except the peak will be facing this way now. Okay, before I go any farther, I like to get my decorative paper, because this is the inside, for the bottom. The bottom is always so hard to get your paper maneuvered in correctly. So this is the great time to do it, because our hinges are down and we want to cover the black there. So let's get into our decorative paper. Now I'm in the Precutting paper collection, and I'm choosing this to be my bottom. On the back it looks like this. Now we're all probably using different paper for this, but so all I'm going to do is cut off of this sheet a 6 7/8 by 8 7/8 inch piece. So here is my piece. Now to make sure, I did cut it shorter than 7 by 9, and the reason is sometimes when you're putting the hinges on, it's just too long. So if you were to fold in your sides here, you should clear and without any bubbling up. Same over here. So that is like the perfect size. Now you can use score tape for this, or you can use your glue. That's why I said glue will work. And for me, I don't want to have to worry about any bubbling up. So I am going to be using my score tape, but please feel free to use your glue. No matter if you are using score tape or glue, once you get your piece down in here, you're definitely going to want to burnish it and make sure that it is down. And if you're using glue, it's a little easier. You can just pull up your little flap down there and press it down, and you know that you're in there good. Using score tape, it's not so forgiving, but being that it is the bottom and you're not really going to tell, it isn't going to matter if it's a little crooked. So I am going to place mine. Okay, we will be cutting for this panel and each one as we go to make it a little easier. What we're first going to do is just pull this up, and this one's going to connect over here. So the only one that we want is to the right side. Here's our bottom. We're going to release this. And then, before pulling in the other sides, we're going to get for each paper. It's so much easier to get the paper down on the inside straight this way. So I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to make sure that I come over. Make sure it's all nice and flush against my bottom chipboard there. And then I'm going to press the hinge. Now I can pull this up and burnish that down. And you can see it's easier to get your paper to lay in there. And don't worry about your little flaps over here. But when you're placing your paper, you're going to have to be mindful of where that score line is so you're not too far over. So let's get our paper for this. So because we are cutting for a 5 by 7 inch panel, I am going to go, first I'm going to cut it at 4 15/16, which is just a smidgen less than 5 inches. And then I'm going to do 6 by 15/16, just a smidgen under 7. So I have this decorated paper. If you were following me along, you can wait and see what piece of this I cut. So before I add my adhesive, or if you're using glue, what we're going to do is just kind of pull this up, and you will place this in there and make sure that you are fitting. You'll probably see a little bit of a black border up there. After placing it down, you just want to make sure that you are even in there, and pressing it all the way over to make sure that this flap can still come in, and mine does. I am a die-hard score tape junkie, so I'm going to get my adhesive on here, and then I'm going to place it. So there is my first one, and it fits in there nicely. Let's cut for our 5 by 9 side. So the cut, 4 15/16 by 8 15/16, and then we always make sure that it fits before we place it. And I'll show you what I'll be using. I'm cutting from the same paper that I used on my side. So I'm going to bring this all the way in there, and that should give me the same black little border. If you don't have any, that's okay. But what you're going to want to do at this point is pull this hinge in and pull this in, and you should fit in there without your paper bubbling. So if you are good to go, lay your score tape or glue and place that. Okay, I've got that piece on. It is now time to pull in our side here. So let's remove our score tape, and I'm going to just pull that in, bring this all the way in flush, and push up my flap. Then I can burnish that down. Okay, it is time to get our paper on for our 5 by 7 side panel here. It will be the same thing that we did over here. And all I'm doing is using the leftover from some of this paper. So we're going to verify first that we're going to fit in there. If you need to do any trimming, do so. And mine seems to be a good fit, because when I pull in, here's my tab, I'm going to pull that in there. When I pull this in, it doesn't pucker, and it looks good. So glue or score tape, and then let's place it. Okay, our last piece. We're going to remove the score tape backing off this, and we're going to pull it in for now until we can get the side maneuvered up against. So I'm going to hold that down. And we also have this hinge here. So we're going to do this hinge after we get this settled. It'll swing in. So if you can get that over on the inside right now, it'll probably help. Just kind of pull it in there. And if you need to remove some of your score tape, if it's peeking over, do so. Okay, let's pull that in. Push up and through here. Pull in my side and press. So I got that hinge down. So you'll probably have something looking like this. Okay, this is the easy part. Just now remove the rest of the score tape off this little side hinge, like I have done, and press it down. Just like that, and then we'll burnish. And your bottom should still look good, your sides. So now all we have to do is cut for our 5 by 9 side. So it's going to be 4 15/16 by 8 15/16. If you're using the same paper as me, I went into my paper pack and got this one out. And I cut my panel. Before we apply our glue or score tape, just make sure it's going to go right on in there. If you need to do any trimming, do so. Okay, so this one is definitely the easiest way is to use glue. Again, I'm going to use some score tape because how I get it to fit is I know I have a small little, all the way around I've had this small little black little area I could see. So when I put this on, I'm actually just going to bring it up and give myself that same amount of black spacing of the chipboard. And once we place this, we can work on getting the outside covered, which is very easy. And then we'll start creating our folders. So the inside of our box is done. And now, if you'd like, you can go ahead and do it yourself, but what you'll want to do is for the inside, or the outside's a little different. You can actually cut the width the same. So if we were 9 inches, you cut a piece that's 9 inches wide. For this way, though, you can continue and do 4 and 15/16. However, I am going to have a nice black lip, so my height is going to be 4 7/8 by 9, 4 7/8 by 7, and so forth. Okay, I got all my papers on the outside. If you are using the same paper and just want to see what I used, I will show you. Now I did do a miscut, and it was actually over here, so I tried to put it, but I didn't quite get it close enough. Had I used glue, I would have gotten it cinched together and you would have never seen that. But that's a great place. I can put a little tag or something out of the collection to cover that up. Okay, our box. So if you have this die, all you're going to do is die cut. Now you can die cut on gold, you can die cut on your paper collection, and then use this to die cut out your tutorial organizer. You'll have to type that up. And then you can glue that right like this or on the long side, which I think I am going to do. And it's going to go on this side, the side that I did not miscut. I'm just going to glue that on to the longest side because for space reasons, when I'm doing this, our file folders are going to be like this. So, and when you push it up against maybe the back of your desk, it's the shortest part this way, so you're not sticking out so far. Okay, the box is complete. We're going to set this off to the side. I think that looks really good. And now we're going to work on those file folders. You're going to need your tab, the file folder tab punch, and grab our paper that we cut. Now you had 12 with the score lines, and really quick what we did was we laid this, we were 8.5 inches across our board. We scored it 1 inch and 1.5 inch. Okay, for these we set off to the side. First, we want the ones that do not have any scoring. And you're going to want to make sure that you have your pages ready to go. You should be looking at it so you are 9 inches across. And this is such a simple, fun little tab maker. Okay, I'm going to show you the easiest way here. So we're going to grab this, and we are 9 inches across. And you will see, and I'll show you how this works. You will see on here, there is 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, all these numbers. And then you're going to see SML on them. You'll notice over here it says SML. We're going to be working with the L's. So I'm going to place this first one, see where your 4 and the L is. So I'm going to line that up with the L line. And then we're just going to punch. See what we got? Now flip this over so it's on this side. Come over here, and where your L is, you're going to line it up with the curve, which it gives you. And then you're going to punch. Woohoo! This is just the easiest, coolest thing. So this is a little paper cutter, okay? And it comes with the blade. We're going to lift this up. Now I want you to place this so your tab is here and you'll still see the line, the line there. So I want you to place this down and you'll hold it down. Now this little blade goes in the track. What I like to do is come to the side where I can see, and then I cut to the side. So you can see now, look, it's a perfect cut. Now because this is such a small little width of a paper cutter, I do open it up and I move it over so I can still see on both sides that line. And I'll just put the blade in that little crease there and cut. And this just flops right in and out. It does not click in. There is our first one. Now what we're going to end up doing is, because I want to be able to have 3 tabs facing one here, and one here. We're going to repeat where we were, the 4 and the L. So I'm going to line that up with the L line. I'm going to flip it over, find my L curve over here. And as you can see how fast this can become. So we're going to do 2 on the 4. And then we're going to, did I get that? And then we're going to go in the middle there. And we'll do that together so you can get your thing. So we're just going to do that. Also, this does have a rounder, and I'm going to show you how that works. Now you can take this little prong piece, right, and you can place it where it says corner rounder in those first set of pegs, and then it covers up the other one. You know you have it right. Stick that right there and press, and it's going to round it. Now for this, what you can do is just stick this in any way, just slide it on up in there, and this will stick out. Or what you can do is just do them first. I hope that makes sense. So they've rounded it. I'm going to do all mine at the end, so I'm going to put that back away. Just make sure that you're not punching for your tabs with any of these in the holes, okay? Sorry about the glare from the sun coming in. I'm going to fix that really quick so it's easier to see. There we go. Maybe the lighting's not so great, but at least there isn't sun coming through. That kind of puts lines on. Okay, anyway, 9 inches across. We're next going to go to our 9. And we're going to put it at the L. We'll flip it over. We'll line it up with the L over here. And then we're just going to put this in here so that we can see our little lines. Make sure it's flush up in there. Whoops. We'll place our blade and we will chop the excess off that we don't need. Alright, so let's take a look at our folders. So we made one for this one. We turned one around. We have one for that. And this should be somewhere in the middle. And that'll look good. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 4. And we'll do them in order so we don't get messed up. So what we'll do is 4 and then 4L. And then we go to 9, 9L. And then we put them together like this, okay? So that they're always nice. So let's continue on until we don't have any more of these. And remember, do not do it on the ones that have score lines, okay? It's only on 12 that have no score lines. I have all mine done, so you should have a total of 12 that look like this. Our first, our second, our last. And I have them done like that. Okay, so, and it doesn't matter, I'm just so OCD. So now what we want to do is grab the 12 pieces that are scored at 1 inch and 1.5. If you haven't already, we're just going to fold on the 1 inch line on each one of these. And we'll fold on the other one as soon as we're done. It's just easier keeping this all flat for what we will be doing. So let's go ahead and do that on each one on the 1 inch mark. Our next step is we're going to grab with our peak down. You will have this 1 inch flap. We did not fold on that score line over here yet. So all we're going to do now is right where you see that crease, just to the right of it, on that 1 inch little flap, we're going to lay our score tape, and then one up here along the edge. So you may want to pause the video right now so you can get all of yours done. I've got all of mine, all 12 of mine ready to go. I'm going to show you just how easy this is. So this is one of my first folders that are going to be in here. Flap is going to go behind. And you can just kind of make sure that they are even, and it's going to hook behind. So you'll know you were straight when you can see that you are lining up here. And this is so simple. All we do is release our score tape backing here, and we fold it over. And we'll do that again. We'll burnish it down. So our tab is off to the back. Here is our folder. Now we can fold on that other score line and burnish. And that will give us a 1/2 inch gusset. So if we have a lot to go in the folder, it will be in there. So it's done just like that. Let's do another one together. So this is my next folder. And I'm going to grab one of these. And here's the front of my little tab. And I'm just going to hook this on back behind. We'll release the score tape and press. And then we'll fold on that score line, other score line. And we can push that up, and now we have a nice little folder in there. Okay, we're going to finish up by doing the rest of these, and then we'll resume the video, so you may want to pause here, and we will get our tabs on. So now we have all of our folders, and they are in our box. Let's start working with the tabs. So on the pre-cutting scoring guide, our last sheet was something that looked like this. And I said you can either use your adhesive paper or regular, like 65-pound cardstock or something that doesn't bleed through in paper. So for this, what we're going to do is grab this out, and all we need is a small scratch piece of cardstock, and we're going to make our template. And my dogs are going crazy, so I'm just going to put it at the 4L, and I'll line it up over here, and I can just cut this really quick. So there is a tab, and that's going to be our template. So what we're going to do is just place this down, and we'll go even putting the like page 9 down here, and we're just going to bring that all the way up. Okay, we're going to make a pencil mark on either side of this tab. Okay, so for the next thing is the outside album is a little askew. It's not centered underneath, so I'm just going to place this right here. Actually, I'll just flip it upside down. It'll be easier, so that this is even in there. I'm going to make a pencil mark here. Okay. And then I'm going to come up under my page 2 so that it is even, and I'm going to place a mark here, and I'm going to place a mark over here. So the first thing to make this a lot easier is on our first cut, we're going to go on this pencil line. We're going to cut here. The next one would be for the side, and we're going to cut, and that one's right here, and we're going to cut down here. Don't worry about these yet. Okay, the next thing what you're going to do on each one of these is you are going to take your pencil, for the first one, and I'm going to show you, is right above the B. You know we need to cut, so we're going to have to make cuts. Oh, there goes my dogs again. So I put a pencil line here above the B. I'm going to cut. I'm going to go over here above the P, and I'm going to cut. And I'm going to keep doing that all the way down, and then cut. Okay, I am not real savvy on the Word doc or whatever, so that is why we're going to have to do it like this. Above the P, we're just going to cut straight across. Now that you have this, you have your 2 extra lines. Let's just cut those down, and then we will be cutting like the same way we did before. And last but not least, we have our 2 lines for this one. We'll cut here, and then we will cut this way. Yeah, sorry we have to do so many cuts to get our stuff out. If you want to do better and do your own, you can. So I'm zoomed in right now. I have the piece for the outside album, and I have my thing down. You'll notice over here our L, and all we're going to do is line up the side of this with where the curve goes. So right there. I'm going to punch. Then I'm going to turn it over, line up with that curve over there, and punch again. And that is going to give me a nice shape. So you can even put this back down on here to make sure that you are even. And you can take your blade and kind of run it. Whoops, like so. So I'm going to I'm going to just get these all ready to go. I have page 2 here, and we're going to do this with each one, and then what we can do is resume. So let's do all of our pieces. So I like to start mine, I put mine in order. The first one would be the base, and then outside album. You don't always have that, but in my next tutorial I do, so I did include that. So I'm using that double-sided, or not double-sided, but that adhesive paper. And I'm going to take my first folder out, and I'm going to place it. Okay. Okay. Now we can continue on placing our tabs. I have all my tabs down. Now, like I stated in the beginning, this will work out great for me. Hopefully it will work out for you to keep things organized. So I hope that this tutorial will be helpful for you. If not, perhaps there's another type of organization for when you're getting ready for tutorials when you have a bunch of pre-cuts. Please feel free to comment below, share some ideas with me. This one, I think this is going to work out perfect for me. And it should work out for you too if you're coming up with the same problems that I face. Just a lot of paper on my desk, scattered. They're piled up. This way it's just easier for me. So happy crafting, everybody, and I hope that you have enjoyed this. And the next tutorial I will be doing will be a mini album using this gorgeous Heartfelt Creations Wild Asters paper. See you soon.